Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Hermitage, Strange Case Files. Now, after reviewing the previous episode's footage, I realized that this cursor here, that you hopefully see me moving around, was not showing up in the original episode. I was unaware that having the cursor hidden through the recording software would also apply that to the representation of the cursor in the game itself. So there was probably a few instances where I was referring to something and I, on my end, could see it and was pointing to something and talking about it, but it was probably extremely confusing for anyone watching because they weren't seeing what I was pointing at. Anyway, logistically speaking, that's out of the way, so let's get back into it. Alright, so last we left off, the girl you see here, who I believe I think is the same girl from the very beginning, opening, who was a part of that art club. I'm not certain, but her hairstyle looks familiar, but I only saw it from the back. She's come into this bookshop that we, the store manager, apparently that's who we're playing, I believe, because we're behind the desk here. And about to start a conversation. Left off pretty much right here. So let's see what we got. We got thoughts, case files, conversations. Let's see what thoughts we got. Before I even talk, gotta smoke a cigarette. I should get rid of my cigarette first. Okay. Come to think of it, she's been dropping by much more often recently, but she rarely speaks. Maybe it's the atmosphere. She's just the quiet type. It's hard to guess. In any case, it's my duty as store manager to take care of my customers. Okay, fair enough. Case files. Okay, I suppose we don't have anything here, but this... Oh! Here's an elder sign. Protection from extra-dimensional threats. What else we got? Oh, this is kind of cool. I like the way this is set up, like a detective kind of thing. What's this? Murder at park. Racial intimidation. Well, that's no good. Chinese blind teenager. World Bank. Interesting. Let's talk to a girl. Oh, great start to a conversation right there. Only now do I notice how young she must be. Her uniform, consisting of a sailor's suit and a long skirt, is quite well known in this city. Like, the suit's well known or she's well known? She doesn't seem like she's very well known. Especially if she's as quiet as she seems, but what do I know? If I remember correctly, this uniform is worn at a well-known private school. Oh, it is the uniform. Phoenix High School. I heard that they only accept female students, and that it's one of the highest-rated schools. Quite a feat. Its name sounds appropriately strong. She wears big glasses that cover a huge part of her face, and is clutching a book under one arm. She holds it very carefully. It almost looks like she's carrying a small animal that she's trying not to hurt. That's the one you want to buy today. Sorry, I'm just making sure. This time it's The Trail of the Missing Fish. Okay. Her reading interests are a little weird. She's been coming here more often lately and has slowly become a regular. The store really isn't that well known, so she must have heard about it somewhere. I flipped through The Trail of the Missing Fish before. The book is by no means an interesting read. It's more like an academic documentary, something about ancient rituals and making sacrifices to a sea god. I have my doubts about its authenticity. You know, I was gonna make a guess that The Trail of the Missing Fish was gonna have something to do with like Dagon or like a fish cult. But off top, it really doesn't sound that provocative. But I guess, it goes to show me, go with your gut. The village itself has been abandoned for a long time, and its remains were almost entirely destroyed. The author cites a large number of folklore accounts to corroborate the details, but it's all mere speculation. An entire book full of ancient texts. While the content sure is interesting, the quality of the writing itself is lackluster. Why would a student be interested in the remains of a settlement whose name has been long forgotten? Sure, the shop sometimes gets a volume containing a rare piece of history that's significant, but this mysterious village, according to the author's nebulous sources, was a place where strange rituals were a common thing. It's actually quite scary to read. And that's not even the most troublesome thing. It's not that simple, I'm afraid. Huh? I can sense her confusion. Oh, no way. May I ask why you want this book? Why? I'm just curious. Can't deny it, these things are very interesting to me too. There's more to this world than we know. You gosh darn right there is. The girl seems somewhat confused. Her blank eyes wander around the room. Can I please have it? I really need it. It's just, there's certain rules and guidelines I must follow. I'm sure you understand. The way the girl responds is somewhat unusual. Even though it's a strange book, she shouldn't be this embarrassed. Maybe she's really introverted. I don't know if the reason could be such a simple one. But Yeah. Sure, it's okay. Or maybe? Everything all right? I don't need this book anymore. I'm sorry. I'll help you put it back. The girl takes the book from my hands and turns toward the bookcase. It's all very abrupt, and the way she moves is extremely clumsy. It's easy to see how nervous she is, and that she didn't think things through. Ah! Oh. Bookcase. I've never seen number with an R. That's an interesting way to do that. Must be a Japanese thing. Number 3. That's Freud, if I'm not mistaken. It's silent all of a sudden. She's just lying there on the ground underneath a mountain of books. Can't even find the right words to describe this situation. All I can do is silently walk towards her in the literary battlefield. Sorry, I'm so sorry. It's... My curiosity from a few minutes ago has been fully satisfied. Now she's acting like a woodpecker, keeping her head down and bowing repeatedly in apology. She looks like she's on the verge of tears. Come on, help me clean up. We need to get some sense of order back. If the actual owner saw this, I'd be kicked out in an instant. Of course, really. I'm so sorry. Apologies for the female voice, but it's like, you know, at least I want to any audio listener potentially in the future to know there's a distinction, and I'm not going to talk like this, you know, for every character. That's boring. The girl follows me and helps me pick up the books scattered all over the floor. Every time she picks up a book, she opens it and rifles through the pages carefully. After making sure the pages aren't damaged, she carefully blows away the dust before handing the books back to me. Her hands are trembling, and she's obviously scared and nervous. Doing this in silence is only going to make the atmosphere even more awkward. Time to find something to talk about to lighten things up a little. Oh, great. Oh, so we do have a name. Or she does. So, your name is Cecil? Cecil, right? Look, your student ID card. You must have dropped it when you fell. Ah, when did that happen? So, you see, and this is what I was saying earlier. Like, she has a name, and arts, you know, student B or A or whoever from earlier who was acting so high and mighty doesn't even have an identity, you know? Like, some people. Relax, you're a regular here. I'm not angry because of a small accident, all right? Don't worry about it, really. Let's get back on topic. The book you want is a good one, sure. It's also very rare and valuable. Can't see why someone your age would need it so badly. I can't just sell such a precious book to someone so young, someone who still shows a lack of control. You know what I mean? The emphasis being on can't sell. If you can convince me, I might consider lending it to you. I'll lend it to you and you'll bring it back once you've finished it. But don't go telling people about it. I don't usually make exceptions. I don't want to have to lie to people and pass it off as a mistake should anyone find out I made an exception. This copy of The Trail of the Missing Fish is a folktale. Given that even this issue is at least 20 years old, I doubt the author was officially published during his time. As mentioned before, the book's content and writing style are rather obscure, and it takes a lot of time to fully grasp its meaning. You might be disappointed if you expect to find an exact piece of information that you're looking for, but online search engines have come a long way. Our ability to search for information and find it quickly has long exceeded everything we used to think was possible. See, I don't know how I want to say this. I'm going to say Cecil. Sounds more feminine, I guess, to me. Cecil could be looking for something very specific, something so peculiar that it may only be found in this particular book. Such a young girl suddenly developing an interest in ancient religious practices for no apparent reason sounds like a great plot point. Let's go. We're getting into the strangeness, everybody. I'm glad that they're starting it off. We saw the Elder Sign earlier. We already have a relatively old book of, at this point, unknown origin to us. And it's in a, hole-in-the-wall bookshop. It has, it's already about cults and such. This girl wants it. She's obviously got some machinations. I mean, the whole, shyness. I mean, for all we know, that's a facade. Who knows? But you heard it here first, if that ends up being the case. What a strange world we live in. Cecil hesitates for a moment, maybe because she still feels guilty. Sir? Would you believe me if I told you something? That really depends on what you're going to say. Oh, I hope it's something good. Just know that you don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. But if there's anything you need to get off your chest, I'm happy to listen. I can fully understand why you wouldn't want to talk to your classmates. And some things need to be talked about, or they'll eat you up from inside. Oh. Bullseye. Her pale fingers clench the book tightly. Oh, yes. And the music comes in. Let's go. Recently, I've been having some very strange dreams. Oh? Most of them are horrifying, so I'm really scared. I dreamed of a gigantic fire rising from the sea, engulfing an entire island. Many small animals lived on that island, but they all disappeared in the blink of an eye. Swallowed by the flames, there was no trace of them left after that. In another dream, I saw men dressed in ancient armor. They were fighting. They held swords and spears and stood together in huge groups. A large squadron of cavalry rushed towards them from the hillside. There was blood everywhere. The men who weren't on horseback were shouting and screaming. I couldn't understand the strange dialect, but they were speaking Chinese. I also dreamed of a huge plaza surrounded by buildings. Foreigners wearing hexagonal star badges stood together in a dozen lines and were escorted to trucks by soldiers. Is that a Holocaust reference? Damn, we're getting into some shit. There were mothers in tears holding on to their babies. The soldiers showed no emotions. They knocked the cowering women to the ground with their rifles and then took the screaming babies. Before I started having these nightmares, I'd only seen scenarios like that in book illustrations or on TV. But I also saw many things that I had never seen or heard about before. Now we're getting into what I want to hear about. Let's go.
These aren't ordinary dreams, and I can't seem to forget about them. I remember them all vividly. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at describing how I feel.
Did it all seem way too real? Cecil nods.
They don't seem like normal dreams. Why would I have visions of such things when I don't even have that good of an imagination? I try to write it all down. If there are realistic details that I couldn't actually know about, that would be all the proof I need.
I see.
So this time, you had a dream about traditional native festivals. You wrote down what they were doing in your dream. Now you're looking for information that might give you some clues. To be honest, old literature as specific as this is both hard to find and hard to understand. Even harder without having some prior knowledge about it. There was a group of natives dressed in rags, dancing around an 8-legged fish made of straw. They slipped yellow wine on the straw heap and smeared blood on a child's lips.
We are getting into some cult shit right now. This is getting good. It's getting good.
They were chanting a strange song that I didn't understand.
You know, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of tropes when it comes to cosmic horror and fiction, but I do like how they're approaching it here. I mean, they're getting you right into it with this girl, and obviously the bookstore owner. I feel like he asked, if it seemed too real, which to me implies that, he's probably, there's a reason he smokes cigarettes. We'll put it that way.
I had no idea they were singing at first, because I'm not very familiar with the Cantonese dialect. But things became much clearer when I found out about the book.
Cecil concluded her train of thought with a slight sigh. Nearly all of the customers who come to Hermitage to buy books have a story. But to be honest, this situation is a little more complicated. The human brain has many different ways of painting pictures in our minds, dreaming being the most common one. However, for most dreams, there's a logical explanation. Once we drift into supernatural territory, that's when people get scared. But that's not the most pressing issue right now. I can't help but look back at her. Cecil is afraid of making eye contact, but she manages to raise her head to convey how sincere she is with her eyes. Oh, she isn't being completely sincere, though. I knew it. I knew she's got something to hide. What did I say? It's a veneer. A half-truth is still a lie. I don't know if she realizes that. All right, maybe she doesn't realize that, whatever, but everyone's got something to hide. I'm not angry. I can't blame her. In the face of uncertainty, she doesn't know who to trust and is extremely confused. Every situation is unique, for better or worse. I've accumulated some experience dealing with strange situations like this one. See, I knew it. There's a reason he smokes cigarettes. Like, he's looked into shit. He works at a weird hole-in-the-wall bookstore. Going on like this will only lead to us running in circles. I need to find the right words, something a girl in her position can relate to. Now's the time to choose. Oh, sweet! Choices. Let's go. Okay. What do we got here? Straightforward, beat around the bush, bluff, intimidate. Well, how do I want to play this? This guy seems like he's trying to help. I don't think intimidating or bluffing. I mean, you might as well just say lying or being mean. We'll beat around the bush. We'll give her the chance to... I deliberately avoid her eyes, put out the cigarette butt, and take a deep breath. But there's more to it than that, isn't there? The girl's eyes widen as I call her out. Looking for information because you had some strange dreams.
A nice idea, but only someone who went through the trouble of making up a story would explain it like that. But I didn't. Humans rely on subjective motivation. If a thing has no value, no one will grant it much attention, let alone devote so much effort into studying it. I can tell you're a smart girl, but believe me, interest is a bad excuse. You can stick with that approach, but it's not going to work. I approach Cecil and look into her eyes. There's a lot of history hidden away here. Fate brought you to Hermitage. It's a special place. I hope you understand that. Cecil seems to be holding her breath. The girl holds tightly onto the book, her fingers caressing the corners. It's a sign of how many thoughts are going through her head right now. Time feels as if it's moving slower. I don't know how long we were standing there, but after a while, Cecil's eyes finally drift away from mine. Sir, you really aren't an ordinary person.
Thanks? I won't shy away from a compliment if I get one, that's for sure. Cecil ignores my playful remark. She carefully puts the book back on the shelf, then turns to me with a serious expression on her face.
It wasn't my original plan, but sooner or later, I probably would have come here to ask you for advice anyway. I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble. I'm really embarrassed.
Seems like you really don't know anything. All I can do is scratch my head. Playing dumb doesn't seem to be working very well.
I want to believe that there are still people willing to help others out there, so it's nice to see they still exist. You're an interesting person, surrounded by so much knowledge from all kinds of different sources. Most people would never believe me if I told them what I told you.
I can take a rough guess at your situation. You can tell me your story. I'd like to hear the truth. The corners of Cecil's mouth turn upwards into a slightly bitter smile.
It's a harsh truth, though. I really didn't lie. Those images are still in my head. But it's just like you said. There are other reasons why I'm paying such close attention to them.
Cecil's tone of voice changes as she looked at me, but her eyes aren't focusing on me. Oh? Gotta love that sting. Digging the music. Like, it's switching up. It's very atmospheric and good. I just want to click this. Oh, okay, so we can just kind of switch to our case files at any point.
I saw my best friend in my dreams. She's like a sister to me.
Huh?
She was lying on the ground, twitching. Her face as pale as snow. The ground beneath her head was covered in red. Blood was still pouring out of her. I couldn't see her eyes. Her right hand was completely mauled. She was trying to move. There was blood. So much blood, and I...
The girl's getting more and more immersed in her vivid memories. Dude, this music is sick. This is putting me here. This is putting me there. 100%. Let's go. She stares at me with blank eyes. I can see a figure reflected in her eyes, but it's not me. Cecil covers her face with one hand. She looks panicked. She uses the other hand to point at the ground as if something were lying there. She kept trying to lift her head, but her neck was twisted too badly. She didn't react at all. I held her hand. Cecil enters into a kind of trance as she becomes fully immersed in the memory. Yeah, she definitely looks like she ain't here anymore. Her facial expression changes to one of utmost dread, and her mouth starts moving strangely on its own. Words spill out of her mouth. She can't control it.
She's staring. The stare. The eyes.
Wait, eyes? Didn't she say she couldn't see them at first?
Blood. Her neck. Those eyes. The eyes. Eyes looking at me. They're looking at me. Staring at me. Looking at me, gazing at me, those eyes. I clap my hands loudly in front of her face. Ugh! She sits there with her arms wrapped around herself, shaking, frightened. What should I do? I gently put my hand on her shoulder. Calm down, calm down. So basically, this vision made you worry. Worry about your friend's well-being. Cecil nods. I can't bear the thought of her like that. It's so horrible. I'm really scared. The more I remember, the more I... Cecil leans against the edge of the bookshelf, her arms around her knees. So you decided to look for information on visions and hallucinations. You're trying to gain further knowledge about them, trying to figure out how much of what you're experiencing is connected to reality. No response this time, but the answer's clear. This is starting to get troublesome. Oh, I swapped up the voice there. I really want to get the store manager's name. I really hope that comes up soon. Will you help me? Cecil looks up, a worried expression on her face. Her eyes are slightly red and swollen from holding back tears. She looks so troubled. I can't leave her alone with this burden. So your interest was in fact genuine. That book, I thought maybe I... Okay, take it easy. I won't leave you on your own. However, if you really want me to help you, I need more information, some more details to work with. Who exactly is this friend who's like a sister to you? What's your relationship with her? Can you pinpoint where and when the vision takes place? More importantly, what exactly are these hallucinations? I know the situation is serious, but I still need to grasp the basic concept of it all, or I won't be able to help you. You're right, I'll tell you. Actually, I often get bullied at school. I don't have any friends there, and they often pick on me in groups. So it is the girl from earlier, okay. I figured I was right. They all think I don't deserve to be going to the same school as them. They want to force me to leave. They don't talk to me, they steal my books, or pour water in my desk drawer. Sounds like a great place. They always try to make me angry or trip me whenever I walk by. The only person who ever stood up for me and told them to stop was her. Well, I am glad that someone in this fucking school wasn't a piece of garbage. Her name is Eloise. She's the president of the school's art club. And without her, I probably would have given up already. I'm wondering what the color coordination obviously means that these are important. Nothing yet. No. Nothing. Nope. Alright. When did you two meet? Around the middle of September this year. Interesting. From what you've told me so far, I would have thought you've known each other for years. I wish that were the case, but I only transferred to Phoenix High School this semester. I had high hopes that the people there would be nicer, but there'd be a sense of community. But it's even worse than it was before. She sighs and looks as if she's holding back a frustrated laugh. Sounds tough. Is this art club somehow related to what you've been dreaming of? The floor in my vision is very much like the one in the club building, and Eloise often gets into arguments with others because of me. Are there many conflicts within the art club? Yeah, dude, this art club is like the only thing at this school that apparently is important enough to discuss. The situation between her and the others is very tense, even though she's the student representative. Don't the teachers have anything to say? Yeah, good question, man. Don't the teachers have anything to say about all that? I mean, things like that could reflect negatively on them, too. Truth be told, the teachers are more worried about the art competition. The preparations for that have their full attention. So it must be an art school, because it's like the only focus. The what now? It's an art competition called the Yukai Cup. It's prestigious and the level of talent is very high. It's serious business. I don't really know too much about those kinds of things.
What can you win? Prize money?
No, nothing like that. Honestly, for me, it's not even that big a deal. But I've only been around a few months, many of the others multiple years. Their pride is on the line when it comes to facing off against students from other schools.
So it's about honor.
Every February, the Yukai Cup is the only thing anybody talks about at Phoenix High. We always score well in the competition.
Sounds very persistent if you ask me.
They work so hard to prepare it that they're all stressed out. The atmosphere becomes unbearable, and the art club turns into an emotional powder keg.
So it's a regular occurrence.
Just like me, Eloise doesn't have much of a presence outside the art club. Considering her calm personality, it's hard to imagine her taking the initiative and start a fight with anyone else.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and sorry for the lack of commentary here on the personal level. I just feel like I enjoy reading the dialogue for anyone who's listening, and once more stuff starts happening, I'll definitely try to interject. Hopefully we'll be able to wrap up relatively soon here. We're already hitting like the 31-minute mark. Oh, here we go.
Just like me, Eloise doesn't have much of a presence outside the art club.
Oh, I already read this.
That makes your visions even more strange. There's no plausible explanation for them. I would like to just write them off as simple nightmares, I really would, but I'm convinced that there's more to it.
Yes, I understand that now.
It really makes me wonder. Like I said before, I see a lot of things in these dreams, although I don't think see is the right word to describe it.
I do really like, like I said, like, I can see the cosmic horror themes here, and if you just heard me crack that, I'm drinking a lime bubbly. Oh, talking for that long, and my mouth is just starting to dry out. But I like, it's an interesting take on it, like, obviously, like, with the whole art competition thing, and, like, how she's new. We don't really know her past. She's having these dreams, and she runs into a guy who obviously knows more than she does. And I like the way that they're utilizing, like, those kinds of themes, like in this kind of visual novel setting, because I've read a lot of cosmic horror, and, you know, even played a couple games and watched plenty of movies, but I've never had the visual novel representation of it, and I think that's so far so good.
I can see, hear, and touch everything. It's as if I don't even exist and I'm actually part of it all.
That doesn't really add up to what you said before. Could you explain it again?
How do you mean that? I'm not very good at explaining it.
Don't worry.
Just tell me how you felt when it first happened. What was the first thing that went through your mind?
Nothing yet. Okay. Oop, nope. There we go.
Cecil thinks it over and opens her mouth to say something, but then shuts it again.
She stays silent for almost a whole minute.
Well, I think I was flying?
Flying?
So it feels as if you're flying through the air. No, it feels like flying, but I don't have any sense of self. I can observe everything from above, but my perspective, Claire, certainly isn't from heaven. The only reason I say it that way is so I can describe it somehow.
Oh, finally, we got a change.
Last time I saw the city's famous Riverside viewing platform.
Pawn shop, Coffee with one E. Supermarket. Okay.
A group of panicked people came running from the north, right towards the people on the viewing platform. Luckily, security guards were nearby to handle the situation and prevent a mass panic. The people were shaken up and looked like they'd seen a ghost. They looked really frightened, all the same. They were such a small group that they were lost in the gigantic crowd of people. Hardly anyone noticed the uproar. And on the other side of the viewing platform, everyone simply carried on as usual. It's really scary how you can feel isolated and unsafe, even when you're out in public and surrounded by so many people. Afterwards, I went to take a look at the place on my own. The surrounding streets and buildings were all familiar to me. They were just like in the dream. Even the street signs were the same. It's hard to imagine that without having seen it for yourself. I've seen bizarre scenarios play out in my mind before, but until the visions of my friend, I never thought about actively researching what I'd seen. I often lose track of time when I have those visions. I have no sense of self, no Cecil. It's just one big blur of everything. Cecil describes the situation as if it were a good thing. I'm surprised she isn't smiling with how happy she sounds. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully that wasn't too much of a bore. I know that was a lot of reading, but I think I'll bring the episode to an end in a minute here because we're already reaching over 30 minutes. I didn't expect... I guess it's the first conversation. I just didn't expect it to go on like 30 minutes. Like, I'm running out of moisture to talk. But I know there wasn't as much commentary on this one, but the way I see doing this is also a means to bring this visual novel to life in almost like an audio format, because you can watch it if you'd like, but it's also as someone personally, like when I'm at work, I'm a big fan of listening to, tabletop role-playing game stuff and audiobooks and things of that nature. So, at the very least, you can definitely watch it, but you'll know that you're not missing anything other than the image from me describing it. But in any case, I hope that it was enjoyable, and I look forward to the next episode.